Hi and welcome to this interview forming part of the cultural transmission of actor training techniques research project, which is currently based in the Department of Theatre Studies at the University of Malta. Our guest today is Jakub, Korchak, who has recently delivered workshops about Stanislavski's Magic If to our theatre studies students. Jakub is a teacher and vice dean at the Academy of Performing Arts DAMU in Prague. Jakub is here thanks to the generous support of the Malta Arts Council, the Research Fund. So, good morning, Jakub. What I would like us to start with is a bit of context relating to your work, relating especially to your formation, to your training as a performer, as a practitioner, and eventually a teacher of theatre.
I studied first of all at the Academy of Performing Arts in Prague, and 2 semesters I spent it from these studies in Moscow in GITIS, State Institute of Theatre Arts, where I have met as teachers Marie Rosipovna Knebel, Anatoly Exfros and Anatoly Vasiliev, and I was also attending rehearsals of Yuri Lubimov at the theater on Taganka. These were rather important experiences for me. After the school, I was working in town theater in that time it was Gottwaldov, now it is Zlín, and I was there also the artistic manager for some time. Later I was invited by very important Czech director Otomar Krejča to renew his theater behind the gate, which was world famous especially in 60s, and later it was closed by the communist regime, so I was there the director together with him. After this period, I came to theatre in Pilsen, where I was resident director, and then to a large theatre in Prague, second largest theatre in Prague, Divadlo na Vinohradech. I worked also in the theatre Mladá Boleslav. I was freelance director, and I was also artistic manager in National Theatre in Brno. So, and from 1990, what's practically beginning of the new era, I am teaching, directing at the Academy of Performing Arts.
Mm-hmm. At one point you mentioned also Grotowski in your formation, and that it was an important influence in your work. Can you expand on this, please?
Yeah, it was for me very important at the beginning of my era when I had possibility to attend his theater in Wrocław. In that time it wasn't theater anymore, it was just laboratorium, and I was there on his encounters twice. But it was very important experience, especially in connection with the group of Eugenio Barba, which was there in that time too, so I had a possibility to meet them too.
While in Malta, as I mentioned in the introduction, you have been working very much on the Magic If, but as somebody who was seeing the work, was watching the work, I could realize that you were taking a very particular path, a very particular line of work, which I felt was very much based on improvisation. Can you expand a little bit on this, please?
Of course, that I was using there many of my experiences, especially from the work with Marie Osipovna Knebel, who was very focused on this way of working, and improvising was for her the basis of teaching her students, because through the action, through the improvisation in the situation, in the given circumstances of the play, I can explore and discover the situation in the best way, because I can discover it through my whole personality, through my body, through my soul, through my spirit. And this is what I am trying to develop also with my students, and when it is possible also with the actors with whom I am working.
It's interesting that you mentioned spirit, because it was something I felt that was kind of underlining the work here. It's not that you mentioned the term, you were mentioning more, something something different. You were mentioning the phrase to open oneself to something new, to a new discovery. Always to look for the process, to search for the process, almost to the extent that you are almost forgetting about the product. Can you link these two together? Can you expand a little bit on these ideas and how they were related to the workshop?
Of course, that everything what's living is process. I'm always saying that when the process is ending, so it is just one line. Yeah, when we are dead, so we see it on the cardiograph. This is just the line. When we are living, so it is all. These are always waves. There are changes. This is vibrating, and that's important if we want to do the production alive and not just to pretend we are doing something, and in reality we are not doing it. We are existing. So we must search how these waves, how these turns are going. This is first thing, to discover the impulses which are provoking some changes in the process. And so that's what I'm always doing, of course, in different ways, because everything is asking a different time. But that's for me substantial.
In one of our informal discussions, we have mentioned a little bit about Stanislavski's transmission, the dissemination of the system, the transmission of Stanislavski's idea in a very global context, in a very worldwide scenario. We are really talking about a transmission movement which is already about 100 years old. At the same time, we mentioned at one point the difference between adapting the system, which is a necessary process, and misinterpreting the system, maybe taking Stanislavski's ideas a little bit too far. How would you make a distinction between these two? Where would you draw a line between an adaptation and misinterpretation?
I myself believe that the system is always connected with the specific personality. And it was very important that it was connected with Stanislavski himself, who was, as I did here, very nice person, very open person to everyone. For example, he did know by names everyone working in the theater, and not only that, he did know about his kids, about his animals, about the whole family, and he could very openly talk with everyone, and it was very important part of the theater, this atmosphere of the trust which was always renewed, that when he spoke with someone he was just his own, it was just for him only one. And I think these are also the things very important for the system. This isn't just something mechanical what we are taking as the tool, but it is something what's opening the universe of the theater. And for everyone is necessary to rediscover that on the basis of his own experiences. And this was for me very important experience in Moscow, where I have met these beautiful people as is Maria Osipovna Knebel, who still did know Stanislavski. She cooperated with him as the actress and as his assistant later, and continued his work. And she was such beautiful, very open personality, always saying, I am teaching from you, my dear students. Yeah. And it was important part. And she was always very kind and open to that what the students are bringing. And that's also important, to trust to the students, to trust to the actors, to love them. It was what she repeated all the time. The director must love his actors, and maybe that's in some way more important than just to read the lines what we have written by Stanislavski, and it was also even in translation misinterpreted. It was through the censorship misinterpreted, so it is starting there. And I'm afraid that not knowing this basis, we are losing and missing many of that what's as so important as this system, technical system itself. Yeah.
Returning for a second to the work that you have done here in Malta. So I was seeing that the improvisations that you were working with students were staying the level of, for example, using child language. We weren't really working on dramatic situations from text, just a little bit at the very end. If you were to give an outline of how you would work with that approach of improvisation to stage a production.
Yes.
We spoke about 6 months rehearsal. So if you were sort of to give some pointers of that process.
This is really just the very beginning. We are just for the first time touching the situation and going somehow through it. And slowly, step by step, would be then for me necessary to go to the exact turns in the situation, to discover this net of impulses which are creating the score of the situation. And if I'll have this score, so I would follow it with the exact lines, where it's necessary then discover each word, because there are some more important words. These words are connected with some concrete pictures, concrete imagination. These words are connected with concrete sound. And this sound is provoking something in us when we say these words properly. There is contradiction sometimes between words and between that what they really mean in the exact situation. There is subtext of that. There is, of course, our comment to that, what we can develop. It depends very much, of course, on the character of the play. I don't think everything is possible to do with the same way, so always in connection with the text it will be important. Anyway, what I want to say that the play, the text itself, is for me extremely important. Our school is based on the dramaturgical approach, and it does mean very deeply understand the complexity of the play, its specific literary character, and also the whole content of that. So this is what will be then continuing, but on the basis of this specific experience, connected with the body and with the action.
And in conclusion, what do you think is the relevance of Stanislavski today? Especially, we go to the theater and we see screens, we see digital media, we see technology being used more and more in the theater. What do you think is Stanislavski's relevance in the theater today?
Here are now so many different approaches to the theater. So many people can say regularly, we don't need any Stanislavski. I think, but still I believe that the dramatic theater is very important part of theater culture, and I myself believe that it is still the basic of the theater. If I want to discover the structure of drama and to be at the same time creative as the actor, that's very important for Stanislavski. That the modern theater is starting with Meiningens, but if we read the critics writing about Meiningens, so we read that the actors were more as the puppets there in his productions, and they admired first of all the manipulation with the crowds, than really acting. What discovered Stanislavski is how to be possible that the actor is creative in the exact structure of the production, of the director's production in the director's concept. That the actor can be really the partner for the director, and that they can interfere in the productive dialogue. And that's for me Stanislavski first of all.
Thank you, Jakub. It was a pleasure hosting you within this context, within our department, and I'm sure we will remain in touch for other work emerging out of this workshop here in Malta. Thank you.